Did you know that stories are hardwired into your brain? In fact, research shows that when you hear a story, your brain lights up in the same way it does when you're experiencing something firsthand. That means your audience isn't just listening, they're living your story. But here's the catch: only a few know how to unlock this power. Most storytellers miss the psychological tricks that make their stories unforgettable. In this video, we're going to explore how you can use the science behind storytelling to capture attention, build deep connections, and leave your audience wanting more. You'll discover why suspense can change the way your audience thinks, how to create emotional bonds through simple words, and why surprise is the secret to keeping them hooked. Get ready to learn the tricks that top storytellers use, tricks backed by psychology. By the end, you'll know how to make every story you tell unforgettable. Ready to dive in? Let's go. Chapter 1: Mind Hacks, Unlocking the Emotional Code. The heart of any great story is emotion. If you can make your audience feel something, you're halfway to telling a powerful story. According to a study by Paul Zak, a neuroeconomist at Claremont Graduate University, storytelling can release oxytocin in the brain, a hormone that fosters trust and connection. This is why we feel so deeply moved by good stories. So, how do you unlock this emotional code? Start by understanding your audience. You don't need to dive into deep psychology, just know what generally moves people. For example, a story that taps into fear or love often has a stronger impact. Think of how a scary movie grips you or how a romance novel keeps you turning pages. You can't fake emotion, so tap into universal themes: loss, joy, fear, or triumph. Another great tool is pacing. Slow down at key emotional moments, and allow the audience to feel. The psychological principle of empathy contagion means people feel what others feel. This is why the scenes where characters express vulnerability or joy hit harder. Use that power to your advantage. Chapter 2: The Power of Uncertainty, Creating Suspense with Purpose. Suspense is like a magnetic force in storytelling. It's the "what happens next" factor that keeps your audience hooked. Research from the University of California found that suspenseful moments engage the brain's reward system, making people crave the payoff. It's not just about surprise, it's about what happens between the moments of tension. How do you create suspense? One word: uncertainty. The brain craves predictability, but it also thrives on curiosity. Think about a mystery novel. You're not looking for answers right away, you're eagerly piecing together clues. This desire for resolution is a driving force in storytelling. To use suspense effectively, you need to master the art of delay. A well-timed pause or cliffhanger leaves your audience hanging. For example, in thrillers, the killer might be right behind the protagonist, but you don't reveal the outcome immediately. This uncertainty drives the story forward. The longer you keep the mystery, the more hooked your audience becomes. Another tool to create suspense is the twist, or unexpected turn. A sudden change in direction catches people off guard and forces them to reconsider everything they've assumed. But remember, surprise must be earned. If you don't build a solid foundation of clues, the twist will fall flat. Chapter 3: The Storytelling Triggers, Rewiring the Brain with Every Word. Words are more than just communication, they're tools to shape how your audience thinks and feels. A story is essentially a form of brain rewiring. Studies show that when you tell a story, the brain lights up in similar regions as if the listener were actually experiencing the events. This is why stories can be so powerful. They engage the brain on multiple levels. To master this, use sensory language. The more specific you get, the more the brain activates. For instance, instead of saying, "the room was messy," try, "the room was littered with crumpled papers, coffee cups, and a lone sneaker under the couch." This gives the brain something concrete to hold onto. Metaphors and imagery are also powerful triggers. They don't just paint a picture, they evoke emotions. Imagine describing the wind as a biting force, instead of just wind. This small change triggers a different emotional response, drawing the listener deeper into the experience. It's the difference between telling and showing, which is crucial for engaging your audience. On top of that, the principle of story resonance says that the more your audience relates to your story, the deeper the connection. So, when you're crafting a narrative, think about your audience's lives and struggles. Make the story relevant to them, and it will stick. Just like a favorite song, a well-told story lingers long after it's over. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss a storytelling tip that could change the way you engage your audience. Chapter 4: Building Empathy. Turning your audience into characters. The key to any compelling story is creating characters your audience can empathize with. But how do you achieve this? It all starts with understanding the psychology of empathy. Research from the University of Michigan shows that when we see someone else in pain, our brain activates the same areas as if we were experiencing the pain ourselves. This is the power of empathy in storytelling. To make your audience care, make your characters relatable. It's not about making them perfect. Flaws are what make characters feel real. Think of your favorite character. Chances are, they weren't flawless but had qualities that made them feel like someone you could understand. By showing their struggles, vulnerabilities, and growth, you invite your audience to step into their shoes. Another great strategy is to let your audience live the character's choices. According to psychologist Dan Gilbert, people tend to empathize more when they feel they could have made the same choice. When your audience sees themselves in your character, their emotional investment grows. The more human you make your characters, the deeper the emotional impact. For instance, in movies, heroes often face impossible odds, but they don't win easily. They struggle, they suffer, and the audience feels that pain. It's this vulnerability that makes their eventual triumph so rewarding. Your audience isn't just watching, they are feeling every step of the character's journey. Chapter 5: The Mirror Effect. Reflecting the listener's reality in your story. People don't just want to hear a story, they want to see themselves in it. This is why the mirror effect is so powerful in storytelling. When you reflect your audience's reality in the story, you make it personal. According to psychologist Jerome Bruner, stories that are familiar to the listener are more likely to be remembered. The more you can mirror your audience's experiences, the more you can shape a story that resonates deeply. Start by tapping into universal experiences: love, loss, fear, and hope. These emotions are part of the human experience, and when you build a story around them, it becomes easier for your audience to connect. Consider how a song or a movie can bring back memories of a personal moment. It's because it reflected something deep within us. One strategy is to use dialogue that mirrors the audience's language. For instance, if you're telling a story about overcoming obstacles in business, use phrases and scenarios that your audience encounters. This makes your story feel relevant and authentic. The mirror effect also works by showing how people's struggles and victories mirror those of the audience. When your character overcomes a challenge that mirrors the audience's own, it can be incredibly empowering. They don't just root for the character, they see a version of themselves winning. This is why stories that reflect the listener's struggles often leave the strongest impressions. Chapter 6: The Power of Surprise. Breaking the expectation cycle. Sometimes the best way to keep an audience hooked is by surprising them. Surprises break the flow of predictability, making the brain take notice. According to psychologist Daniel Kahneman, our brains are wired to seek patterns. When those patterns are broken, we're forced to pay attention. This is the magic of a good plot twist. Creating surprise is about mastering the art of expectation. In stories, you lead the audience down one path, only to reveal something unexpected. A great example is the movie The Sixth Sense, where the twist isn't just shocking, it changes how you see everything that came before. The moment of realization is so powerful because the brain has been tricked into thinking it knew what was going on. The key to effective surprise is building the expectation first. If you simply introduce a twist without enough setup, it can feel cheap. According to narrative theory, suspense builds when the audience thinks they know what's coming, only for the story to defy those expectations. A well-executed twist makes the audience rethink everything. One way to master surprise is by using the technique of misdirection. Magicians use this to distract and deceive, and you can do the same in storytelling. Lead your audience to believe one thing, then surprise them with a shift that makes sense in hindsight. It's like playing chess, making them think you're going one way, then taking them in an entirely unexpected direction. Surprise also keeps your audience engaged. If your story becomes too predictable, people lose interest. But when you break their expectations, they stay on the edge of their seat, wondering what will happen next. Surprises engage the curiosity centers in the brain, making your story more exciting and memorable. If you're finding this video helpful, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss more tips that will take your storytelling to the next level.